What my Warlock looks like. I chose the human race when I covered making my Warlock, just purely because I want the extra feat points. So for me, I definitely want the extra feat points. I feel like it really benefits the Scourge Warlock. I feel like there's a lot of things that they get from their basic talent tree that is very or their very basic feat tree that's very useful for them in terms of what they can do, what they need as their class. So I feel like the extra few points is really necessary. However, when I was first rolling this character, I did mess up a little bit on my stats, because what you're actually going to look for is about 20%, is about 20 to 20 whatever con. I accidentally rolled it into intelligence, so I actually just ignore a lot more defense than I wanted to and deal a little bit less damage. But these are kind of what your stats are going to look like. You'll definitely just want to kind of balance out Constitution as well as Charisma. You probably want a little bit higher Charisma and then a little bit lower Constitution, and then a little bit but not a huge amount is necessary. But this is basically what I would want my stats. The only thing I would really change is I would probably drop a little bit of this Wisdom and try to get some extra Constitution or something like that. But that's all I would really change, because Constitution is your main stat for damage, and then it's your secondary stat. It gives you then Charisma is the main stat that you use, which gives you a lot of crit chance. The majority of your abilities work off of your crit chance. So these are what my current stats look like. Again, I don't have boons or anything like that yet. Actually, I might have one boon, but other than that, I don't have really boons. So as you can see, I got about 28% increased damage and 39% crit right now, and then 90% crit severity. So this will go up pretty well as I gear this character, because it's not even really geared. I've literally just power leveled it through everything, and put a couple pieces of gear on it from basic stuff that I just sent over from my main. But to go through what I'm using for gear, I'm basically just looking for stats like max health, crit strike, and power are the main stats you're looking for, and then you want to run like some defense or something, and then I use dark enchantments for you on my utility slots. For power, for armor enchantments, I'm probably gonna end up with like a Bart shield or something like that. I haven't really looked into armor enchantments just yet. And for overload slots, I'll probably get a couple types of other damage, and I'll go over those later when I get that set up. But majority of my gear is literally just focused on getting health points, power, and critical strike. Those are the two things you need mainly, and then having some extra defense and some utility slot movement is really useful. But I also slotted in some defensive slots as Azure enchantments, mainly because, again, I really just kind of want the defense. Having a higher deflection chance is nice, but I really just wanted the overall damage mitigation from defense, so I decided to go with that. But all of my gear is pretty much just power and crit chance, and a little bit of recovery and a little bit of defense and stuff from basic gear. So that's what everything looks like as far as everything. I'll just go through everything and give you a quick look at what it is going to be. I'm going to improve on this as I gear this character, so this is not a huge thing I want to talk about here, but this is what basically you want to look like. I'm currently running the trinket for I'm currently running the Scourge trinket, which you get at level 60 or level 70. It's basically just a quest that you just run through some stuff and grab. This is just your class trinket, and then I'm running, but what you're really looking for in your trinkets is power, crit, and recovery. Those are the three things you're really looking for. So I'm running just crit, one crit that I'll probably upgrade later, a power one that I'll upgrade later, and then a max health point one. This is just another one of my class ones. I probably won't upgrade this one as a class one because it's not as beneficial to me. I'll probably switch out a bunch of my relics later, so this is just basic stuff. So heading into my powers, again I am currently running a health. There's two different types of class options you can take as a Warlock. I took Hellfire. There's Soulbinder as well. I might make a Soulbinder later, but not right now. But mostly because I want to test out the Soul Puppet and how high that damage can go. But for now, I'm doing this Hellfire build. It's really nice and it's really fun. So I'll just head through what I use and what are my main abilities that I'll level and what I'll upgrade to level 4 as soon as I get skill points. So heading through, Eldritch Blast is my main at will. This is my spam ability. This is my damage even at end game. You get this very early, but I keep it up. Basically, it just throws a fireball. So pretty much it throws a fireball and lets you do whatever damage you want to do. So it creates kind of splash damage around you. So whenever you use it, your third strike will always do splash damage to enemies around you. So this gives me a lot of AoE for stuff like that. I leveled Killing Flames. Initially, I will probably run through and do Killing Flames as my AoE, because I do run an AoE build and I run a single. However, they both can be used interchangeably, so if you don't feel like switching, it's fine. But I do tend to switch because of the stat choices I took. However, so when it comes down to it, I only get Dark Spell rank 2 because I don't really use it after I get my secondary at will. I don't really use Dark Spell, so I only level it up rank 2. I level Brutal Power to rank 3, I level Shadow Walk to rank 3, I level Infernal Spears to rank 3, just to test it out. I wanted to see what it does. It's a little bit of weird skill, so I was just kind of testing it out, and it just needed points anyway, so it's whatever. I level Vampiric Embrace. This is good for leveling. It just gives you temporary hit points, as well as it gives you life back when you kill an enemy with it or deal damage to an enemy, so it's pretty useful for leveling, so you just don't get killed by stuff. I chose Flame and Flag, I don't know, whatever that says. I'm not even gonna try. You can read it. I'm not gonna try. I give up. But I leveled that. This is one of my main at will, or one of my main daily powers. So what this does is it does a huge amount of damage over time. It ticks numerous times within its duration. And then 25% of the damage that it does, that the heat deals to it, is also dealt to nearby enemies, so it works as an AoE as well. It does a huge amount of damage, as you can see. And I'm not even really geared yet, so this is a pretty low amount right now, but it gets even better. I leveled Dark One's Blessing. Again, this is just good for leveling. Gives you just life whenever you hit your Warlock's Curse targets, so it gives you just a lot of life and gives you some sustainability. It just makes it easier for you to sustain leveling. I use Deadly Curse. I use this all the way up to endgame. Deadly Curse applies damage when you apply your Warlock's Curse, so whenever you use Warlock's Curse, you will immediately deal damage, and then you also get the damage increase from using Warlock's Curse, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. Continuing on, I leveled Fiery Bolt. Fiery Bolt is another portion of my AoE kind of clear, and what I use for that. So I do level it, however, for single target I don't use that so much, but it is there for that. Warding Curse I do level. Again, if I just use it for it's just another way to kind of mitigate some damage when you're leveling or something like that and you're by yourself. It's just a good way to mitigate some damage and keep yourself safe. Heading on, I definitely grab Pillar of Power. I ignore Curse Bite. I definitely grab Pillar of Power. Pillar of Power is one of my main abilities for my single target rotation. It's very good. It buffs your damage. It gives you 12% to 24% increased damage, and then it also reduces the damage that, just send me a guild invite. The resistance of Neverwinter. I'll check that in a minute. I'll check that out in a minute. So back to what I was talking about. So what this does is essentially it boosts your damage and it boosts your allies' damage if they stand on it, and it also reduces the enemy who is hitting by it. It reduces their damage and their damage resistance, so it basically makes them take increased damage, which is why my single target is different than my area clear, because single target for my Warlock you have to be very close. It's very close range, so as far as running into packs and stuff, it's a little bit dangerous. However, for single targets, since you're probably going to have a tank, and you're always going to have a tank, most of the enemies aren't going to be focusing you, so it's very easy to get this off and just consistently stand there and deal the damage you need to. I was leveling with Flame of Empowerment. I actually chose a different at-will than this. However, if you want to run this, it does do pretty good damage. So what it does is, as you attack with your at-wills, you gain stacks of Flame of Empowerment, which increase your damage dealt to target by 2%. This increases for 1% every single time you level it up to rank 4. It gives you a total of 5% increased damage per stack. So in total, it'll give you 15% increased damage overall. So it's pretty good. I just chose not to use it because of what I chose instead. So I chose Hellish Rebuke. I do get this to rank 3. I'll eventually get this to rank 4 when I get the stat point for it, but right now it's rank 3. So this is my secondary at will. So this one you have to refresh every so often. There's a duration for it. I do not take the I do not utilize the extra personal power for turning this into just a single attack. I maintain it as a damage over time, which is incredibly important for my build and what I use it for. But basically what it does is it does damage over time, it ignites an enemy, and if an enemy attacks you, it deals extra damage to it, so it scales very well, and it's based on fire damage. The next thing I grab for my single target is Heraldstorm. Heraldstorm is really good. It does damage over time. And then it does damage over time to both your enemy as well as the enemies around it. If it's applied to a Warlock cursed target, it will knock them off and it'll stop the Hailstorm. However, this is where this is a little bit difficult to use and you have to really pay attention. If you utilize your curse first, and then cast Hailstorm, your curse will not interrupt. You'll get the full damage as well as getting the damage boost from having the curse on it. So whenever you enter combat, you want to hit your curse first. You want to hit Hellish Rebuke, and then you want to use Hailstorm so that you can get the extra damage, as well as gaining the full duration of Hailstorm. The next thing I do is grab Tyrannical Curse. This is my other daily alongside of the other one. What this does is it places another curse onto your Margit. This will not interrupt Hailstorm either. It does damage over time. It also curses them and increases damage they take from you by 25%. And any target that you use your Tyrannical Curse on are damage linked and deal 15% of their damage to other targets around them. So it's good for AoE as well, but I usually switch back between Tyrannical Curse and Flame. These are my two main ones, and these are the ones I always use. I did level No Pity No Mercy. Again, this is the one that turns Hellish Rebuke into an actual attack and increases damage, but reduces the amount, but stops it from being a damage over time. I don't use this. I just leveled it because I needed to get more skill points. I skipped this whole row, and then I grab Blades of Vanquished Armies. This is my last single target ability. So what this does is it spins up spinning blades around you. It looks like this. So what this does is it does damage over time. As you stand near opponents, it does damage over time, and then on cursed targets especially, it hits them more often. So it's incredibly nice for that. It does really good damage, helps me shred, and it also hits numerous times, which is really important for my build and what I want to do. I did Little Gates of Hell. I really don't use it. You can use it. It does really good. It does decent damage, but it doesn't outweigh the damage that you gain from. It doesn't outweigh the damage to me that you gain from flames or that you'll gain from your Tyrannical Curse, so I don't particularly use it, though I do have the skill points for it if you do choose to use it. I did level Prince of Hell. I don't particularly use it, but I needed stat points to go on. I did level Dark Prayers. Again, don't particularly use it, but if you want to use it, go ahead. I leveled Arms of Powder to 2. I don't really use it at all. I just wanted to see what it was, and a lot of Warlocks were using it. I wanted to check out what it did. Didn't like it. Didn't include it in my build. I grabbed All-Consuming Curse. So what this does, and this is my second main personal power. So what this does is anytime I crit, I will have 100% chance to apply a lesser curse, and then my lesser curse, because I already have this at rank 4, my lesser curse will deal 50% more damage. So this is huge for our class because you're pretty much going to be critting the majority of times, actually pretty much all the time. So as you crit, you want to apply Lesser Curse, which is then it's another dot and does even more damage over time for you, and has a chance to crit, which will continue keeping Lesser Curse up for you. So that's what I run for that. So I'm going to talk about what Lesser Curse and what Soul Pupper are. Lesser Curse essentially is just the damage over time. It works as your other curses do, so you'll get the increased damage buff for that. And it applies just a lot of damage over time to any of your enemies, and then anything like that. So heading into feats, so this is what I currently run. I run 3 into Critical Strike, and again, this is why I ran Warlock. I chose to run Warlock so I get the extra 3 points. I run 3 into Critical Strike chance, I run 2 into Maximum Health, I run 4 into Energizing Curse. So what Energizing Curse does is it gives me 24% more action point gain when attacking cursed targets with my at will. Since I'm always going to be doing this, pretty much, I definitely want this so that I can keep refreshing flames as well as my curse, so I just get more damage and more damage from that. I then grab 3 into my counter powers damage, so I get 60% increased in counter power damage. I grab all 5 into counter cooldowns. I really want to be able to spam abilities, so this is incredibly important. I did not grab anything else from that, and then I grabbed increased critical strike severity, as well as the increased damage that my Lesser Curse and my Deadly Curse will deal. So that's what I took for my basic feats, and then heading into my skill tree, I took 5 into Daughter's Promise. Whenever a cursed target is killed, you deal 50% of your weapon damage as necrotic damage to up to 3 targets near the recently slain. This just increases your AoE damage. I took Critical Promise. After I critically hit, your next attack will also deal 40% of your weapon damage as necrotic damage. This will happen so often, so often, so it's really useful for just getting extra scaling damage. I took Gatekeeper's Empowerment. Again, this is the Gates of Hell increased damage, so it gives 25% more damage and more action point gain. However, since I'm not using Gates of Hell, I mainly use this for the additional damage of my dot on my Hellish Rebuke will now do 25% more damage, which is what makes my Hellish Rebuke so strong in what I use it for. I take Infernal Wrath. So my Lesser Curse also causes the target to take 5% more damage, since it has 5% less damage resistance. I take Killing Curse, so when I attack your cursed target and deal an additional 25% of my weapon damage. I take Executioner's Gift, so my at-will and encounter powers deal 15% bonus damage as target health diminish. So as my target gets lower on health, I deal more and more damage. I took Murderous Flame, so what this does is Killing Flame deals 30% of its damage to foes within 20 feet of the primary target. This damage is split equally among the affected targets, and if there are no other targets, the primary target takes all the damage. This is why I use Murderous Flames for my AoE portion of the build. I then use Brutal Curse, so this increases my Warlock Curse and Untitled Curse, increase your damage against affected targets by an additional 10%. So anytime I use Warlock's Curse, I get an extra 10% increased damage. Anytime I use Tyrannical Curse, I get an extra 10% increased damage. So in total, Tyrannical Curse gives me about 35 to about 50% increased damage over time, or increased damage in general, so it's very, very useful, which is why I say it doesn't outweigh, which is why I said that Gates of Hell just simply won't outweigh its total damage and what it does for you. And then the last thing, which is the entire key to my build, is Creeping Death. So what Creeping Death does is anytime I deal damage with an at-will, an encounter power, or daily power, to a target affected by my Warlock's Curse, they're affected with Creeping Death. Creeping Death deals 75% additional damage as necrotic damage over 6 seconds. Creeping Death stacks. As far as I know, this stacks infinitely. So, what you really want to focus on, and again, why my single target is the way it is being able to maximize the amount of stacks you can get on this. So this is why I use Flames, this is why I use Tyrannical Curse, this is why I use stuff like that, as well as Hellish Rebuke, as well as all these damage over time that have tech numerous times over durations. So I can keep my stacks of Creeping Death active, as well as very, very high. I think the highest stacks I've gotten right now is about 90. And that just, it's a ridiculous amount of damage that you can just deal. It's all damage over time, it's all able to crit, so it'll deal a ton of crit damage. It's really, really strong. I love this. They love this skill, and that's why I use it. So heading into just again, I'll show you guys. I gotta find it. I don't know. Hold on. I actually don't know where one's at. I don't have a clue here. You know what? I'm just gonna go to Neverdeath real quick. Let's just go to Neverdeath. I'm pretty sure there's one here, I thought. No? Is there not? Really? Hold on, let me look it up. Oh, okay. So there was one there. I went the completely wrong place. So let me run over there. Back to Texas Enclave. Yeah. Ah, fuck it. Just accept the invite, why not? Must donate to guild, must be active, must have fun. That's an interesting rule. Okay, so we're gonna go to... Is this the place? It's not the place. Okay, where is this at? Where's this at? Is it this place? That's the Grand Emporium. Let's check in here. Okay, I'm not in here. Sorry about this, guys. I should have found this earlier. I never actually know where this is at because I never really use it, but alright, so where's this at? It's not there. Where was this at? It's somewhere around here, I think. Oh, there it is. Okay. Complete road past it. There we go. I think this is it. Yep, here we go. Okay. So there we go. There's the trading dummy. Okay. So for talking about my two rotations, again, I still use the same at wills the whole time. So this is Killing Flames, Firebolt, Harrow Storm. This is my main AoE rotation and what I typically use as far as everything for AoE. So to start out with, you're always going to start with Curse. and then you start with Hellish Rebuke. So as you can see, it does damage over time. It's got a huge crit chance, so pretty comfortable damage over time over there. God damn, stupid pet. Okay, so as you can see, it's doing pretty nice damage over there, but you want to maintain both of these. Your curse with my build will never come off, so you don't need to keep casting it, but you do need to cast it at the beginning of every fight or on whatever target you need to cast it on. You don't need to keep casting it on the same target though, because it'll just stay there. But for its duration, you do want to cast it and make sure that stays there, make sure that's on, and make sure you're doing damage with it. So anytime you crit, you will get Lesser Curse on you. And Lesser Curse, if you can see there, it shows up and it deals extra damage over time, so you're doing nice damage over time. So the next thing I followed this up with is I followed up immediately with Hailstorm. So now I'm dealing extra damage over time. This gets my crippling stacks up, extra damage like that. And then I follow that up with I start that off with that, which is Fiery Bolt. Does a good amount of damage and does splash damage to anything after you target it with your curse. And the last thing I finished off with is this. So all three of these are what I use for my AoE. When I'm just running basic dungeons and stuff like that. This is what I'll use just for AoE clear and stuff like that. Now heading into my single target build, it's much different. So for single target, I still maintain Hailstorm, but I instead swap Fury Bolt for Pillar of Power, and then I swap Blades of Vanquish for Killing Flames. So this is what I use for single target. So again, it's the same rotation. You start out with your Hellish Rebuke and your Curse, and then you want to go into this. You want to get off Hailstorm, and then you want to put on Blades. So as you can see, it just sits there, and then you pretty much just sit here and cast at wills. And you can see all the damage I'm doing. All that damage. So yeah, this is what I use for my rotation. This is what I use for my current Warlock build and everything like that. And this is how I deal my damage. So